We are now on patch 13.24 and here is the best performing comps in the current patch and how to play them. We do have a few new ones, but first of all, we start out with the most picked comp in the highest rank, Pentakill Karthus. And in my opinion, this comp is something that you have to know how to play. Doing so, it is performing very well. So what you're looking for in this comp is Mordekaiser or Karthus as your headliner. What you can do is to get to level 6 or 7 and do a roll down and hit Mordekaiser, where you want to have him as a pentakill. You can also get to level 8 and do a roll down here and hit Karthus as your headliner. And here it can be both of the options. Are we in the situation where we are getting Mordekaiser as our headliner? We do prefer to get him to 3-star. We do also want him to 3-star if we're getting Karthus as the headliner, but more or less, are we getting him as the headliner? It is more useful. We do also want to have 7 in pentakills, and that is why if we can get an emblem, we do put it on Akali to get 7 in the trade. We could also get to level 9 to get 1 more unit in to get the pentakill if we do not have the emblem. What we're looking for when it comes to items, Mordekaiser is more or less everything that you can put on him. Bruiser items, healing items, AP items or tank items do work well on Mordekaiser. AP items will go on Karthus, so something like Archangel, Sojin and Dual Gauntlet. Are we having Mordekaiser as the headliner? We will get a Crown Guard for free. Are we getting Karthus as the headliner? We are getting an Archangel for free. Tank items will go on Nico and Bruiser / healing items can go on Akali. Bloodthirster is super good. We can also buff it up with Hand of Justice. We can also go for something like Titans or even Infinity Edge. Extra and other items can just go on Yorick or Viego. And when it comes to augments, we are looking for something like Vampirism. Cutting Corners is just performing overall really good, and Metalheads is good as well. So without Vex, this is your board when you get to level 8 if you're having an emblem. If you do not have an emblem, you will not perform very well because you're only gonna have 5 in pentakills, and that means you have to go to level 9. When you get to level 9 without the 7 in pentakill, you would put in Olaf or you will put in Kale. So one of these 2 units. Are we in the situation where we do have the emblem? We can just play this board and just put in whatever units is the strongest one. And that could be everything from more CC, more tankiness, or even just playing 1 more Executioner, which is also the case if we are not getting the one with pentakill. So if we're getting to level 9 without the headliner as a pentakill, this will be the case where we are having Executioner. Then we're gonna put in Vex to have 4 in that trade. That does also mean that we are only playing for 5 in pentakills. So this is like the only other option. Most played comp in the highest ranks and for a good reason. Next up we have Fast 9, and this is one of the comps that you want to play every time you have the chance. It did get a bit of a nerf on 6, but it is still the best comp in the game. So obviously you're not gonna force this board, but are you getting to a point where you can get to level 9 without dying and having a few roll downs to hit the units that you want, you are going for this board. So this is the AP one. There is also an 81, which I will show you in just a moment. But are we playing this one? We could go for this front line where we are putting tank items on Illari. We are putting AP and mana items on 6 and attack speed and mana items on Sona, and this is more or less it. The main thing is that from the early game you want to hit an augment that gives us more time or more gold, and then we're just gonna play as many 2-star units as possible even though they are not in the same traits. The reason why we are doing this is just to prevent us losing health and just spare all the gold to go up in levels. And when we get to the point where we can go to level 9, we are going to level 9, selling the headliner units that we are playing with and just trying to hit 6, Sona or Illari as the headliner. The other Fast 9 option is this board, which is more the classic one, where you are going for these 4 units in the front line, 2 Guardian units and 2 Bruiser units, and then these 3 guys in the back line. You can also put in something like a sack if you're not hitting whatever you need. You can also play around Kiana, and normally the best one performing will be Sona, and this will more or less be your back line, and this will more or less be your front line. The best performing AD version is probably the one where you are playing around MF as well. And you will also play around something like Ezreal, and this gives us 4 in big shots to buffing up Jhin even more. So this is probably the best performing comp. And due to Ezreal just got a buff, you could put similar items on Ezreal. But obviously you are going to prefer putting items on Jhin. But are we already having item on Ezreal from playing HeartSteel to get to a faster level 9? We can just use those items on him and hope that we are hitting a Jhin as the headliner. Are we not hitting Jhin as the headliner, we can just transfer the items over, playing without Ezreal and MF, and just play whatever units that you hit or the units that you think that perform the best in this comp. When it comes to items, we are going for tank items on Illari, bruiser item on Yorick, if we can make these items without using the components that we want on the headliner. When it comes to Jhin, we want to have some sort of crit and some sort of mana. Sojin or blue buff is both performing very well, but we can also put in something like Hand of Justice, or we can even play with a Last Whisper. Next up, we have True Damage Senna. And True Damage Senna is one of the Reroll comps that are a new one. So Senna wants to obviously go to a 3-star. And what you could do in this comp is to get to level 6 as fast as possible. That could be by going for a lose streak, get to level 6 and start doing a roll down. I would say there is quite a lot of units that you can use as a headliner when you are looking at 2 and 3 cost units. So what you can do is to get to level 6 and do a roll down to try to hit one of these units. I will show you a lot of other comps where you are hitting a 2 and a 3 cost headliner unit. So are we hitting Senna as the headliner where she is true damage? This is the board that we are going for. When we get her to 3-star and get up in levels, and at the moment we are hitting Qiyana, we will put Qiyana in and take out Yasuo. But before we do that, we also want to buff up Senna by rapid fire, and that is why we are putting in Aphelios as well. Aphelios will provide a stun, but can also just give Senna more attack speed. When it comes to items, we are putting mana items and attack speed items on Senna. That could also be a Raze Blade, and we can even go on something like Archangel. Echo will hold tank / supporting items. We are not really prioritizing Echo that much in the early game, but an early Sunfire Cape or Spark is quite good. Akali just got a buff, and that will be your secondary carry, and here we want some sort of healing item, even a second healing item like Hand of Justice, and then just a damage item. As I mentioned before, when we get up in levels, we will take out Yasuo and play Qiyana instead, and when we are getting up in the higher levels, we can also be lucky to hit Lucian, and that means we are taking out Aphelios. Another thing that we can do is to put in Ahri, and it could be our main board. When we get to this point and putting in Ahri, we will also have 3 in Kda, and we might want to move our units a bit around to hit the marks that Ahri and the other Kdas are giving us. Are we on the other hand hitting the rapid fire one, we will obviously not play Aphelios or even Lucian, but we will just use all of the true damage units, and that means we have to put in Yasuo again. So this is gonna be your board at level 8. Are we again getting to level 9? You could put in something like Ahri and again moving your units around so they are getting the extra buff. When it comes to augments, we are looking for a specific one, something that gives us more Senna units, or just a combat augment that are performing well at the moment. Next up, we have Disco with Twisted Fate. And the main thing about this comp is many people don't really know that you kinda have to get to level 9 and think this comp is bad. It is not bad by any means. If you think it's bad, it's probably just because you are playing it wrong. So what you want to do from the early game is to have Taric or Nami as your headline unit and playing around Disco. When you get to the mid game, you can play around a Lux as your headliner and put your items over on Lux. And then when you get to level 8, you will sell it and do a roll down to hit either Blitz or Twisted Fate as your headliner. If it's gonna be Blitzcrank, it has to be the Disco one. And if you are hitting Twisted Fate, it can be either of them. Whenever you're having these 2 units to 2-star, you can get to level 9 and put in a few units that you need. When it comes to items, we're just gonna go for pure tank items on Blitz, and we will go on everything that means more mana, attack speed, or AP on Twisted Fate. And you should not try to be greedy to have the specific items. You're just gonna slam them early on Nami or Lux, and then you're just gonna transfer them over. Before you're hitting 6, you can also just play Lux, and whenever you hit 6, you're just gonna put items over on him. So similar items, you don't have to have specific ones, but attack speed, mana, and AP items is really good. You do also want to have Ilarian, and what you can do is using her extra units to take more time in the front line, or even use them as bait for snipes. And you can even choose to put Twisted Fate up here if you are scared of something is sniping your backline unit here. When it comes to augments, we are looking for something like Crash Test, which is super good for this comp. Little bodies and a specific one is good as well. Next up we have Crowd Diver Yone, and this is one of the new comps that are coming from China. And here we are playing around Yone as a 3-star. And I think this comp is super good. The only thing is, when it comes to looking at the stats, it is not doing that well. And the reason why is probably because people are kind of trying to force it. What you could do is to play around HeartSteel early and get to level 7 fast and hit Yone as your headliner. And the other option is that you can get to level 6 and do a roll down and either hit Yone or Katarina as the headliner. But that is a bit of a different comp, which I will show you in just a bit. But it is a comp that you probably should know how to play if you are in the situation where you are hitting her as the headliner instead of Yone. So you can either play him as a headliner where you are getting 6 in Crowd Diver, or you can also play him with the Edgelord instead, where you are not going for 6 in this trait. In this case, we are not playing Evelyn, we are instead playing something like Echo to give ourselves 2 more traits. Get to level 7 no matter what and play this guy and get him to 3-star. Put in bruiser items like Titan, Bloodthirster and Hand of Justice. It could also be items that are similar, and the same thing goes for Viego, and the kind of same thing goes for Zed. Which one of these 2 units you're gonna itemize is just the one that you hit to 2-star first. Tank, support, bruiser items could also go on Mordekaiser, but we do prefer Yone first, the one of the 2 units that you get to 2-star, and then Mordekaiser as the last option. Are we getting to level 9 with the one with Edgelord? We are just putting in something like Riven, or we could even be more lucky and put in something like Kane. Are we on the other hand playing the other one with Crowd Diver instead? We are just gonna play with 6 Crowd Divers, and that's once again is this board, and then we're just gonna put in Echo to get the 2 other traits. So this will be your level 9 board. When it comes to augments, something that gives us a 3-star Yone faster, Vampirism is working super well, and just another combat augment is good as well. Next up we have Katarina with Crowd Diver. So when we are playing this board, we are always playing Katarina as the headliner where she is Crowd Diver. We are never playing the other option. We want to have all the Crowd Diver units in, and then we want to have all the Superfan units in. This gives us an extra item on Katarina and just a board where Katarina is just doing huge amounts of damage. As I just mentioned before in the previous comp where we are playing around Yone, we could go for a 5 lose streak, get to level 6 and do a roll down and either hit this guy or Katarina as the headliner. Whenever we get the headliner unit, we are trying to use all gold above 50 to get the 3-star, and from here just go up in levels and put in as many of the units that we need. Zed and Yone can be our secondary carries, but it is more or less just about the headliner. Tank items and supporting items could go on Nico. A Spark and a Sunfire Cape is very good just to give the anti-heal and the anti-magic resist. Are you using your other item on one of these guys? It doesn't really matter, whoever is the strongest one. And if you're getting Zed to 2-star, he will be prioritized. If we are not, we will prioritize Yone instead. When it comes to augments, this one is super good for Katarina. More Katarina units and specific items is all very good on this comp. Are we getting to level 9 with this board? We are almost guaranteed a top 2. But what we can look for is to put in something like Echo. And another option, which is at least as good, could be something like Zac, just for more CC. Next up we have Samira and Country. So this is one of the best performing comps if you are not contested. It is just very strong, and if you have the chance to get Samira to a 3-star headliner unit, you are settled in. So what you're looking for is to do a roll down at level 7 where you are hitting either Urgoth or Samira as your headliner. When you hit Urgot, it kinda have to be country. If you hit Samira, it could be both of them. But are you in the situation where you are never gonna go level 9? It is way better to have the country one. Are we getting the country one? We will take out Katarina and put in a unit that fits the board well. In the best case, we are going for Ilauri or we are going for Yorick. These are the two best units to hit if we are only going to level 8. Are we only going to level 8 and are not playing around a headliner unit that are country? We will perform way worse. But are we in the situation where we're having the Executioner as the headliner and we are getting to level 9? The comp can be played equally as good as 5 countries at level 8, but here we are going for 5 countries again, where we have to put in Katarina, and we do also play one more unit in the Executioner, which normally will be Karthus. When it comes to items, it is all about crit for Samira, and that means Infinity Edge, Last Whisper, +1 damage item. Urgot will go for bruiser items. That could be anything from Bloodthirster, Titan. It could also be something like Hand of Justice. But we do only prioritize Urgot items if we are getting him to 3-star or if he is the headliner. When it comes to tank items, it will just go on whoever is getting to 3-star first, but we will just put the other tank items on the other 2 frontline units, and we are prioritizing to get Samira, Urgot, Zed and Amumu to 3-star, but mainly the headliner units, and if possible, also one of the others. If we have the chance, we will obviously also go for Vex to 3-star, just because we are getting to the point where a lot of the 3-cost units already have been used, and we do have a bigger chance of getting other units that are 3-cost. When it comes to augments, we are looking for something that gives us more of the main carry units, something that are specific for the comp, and we can also get ourselves something like Pandora's to get us the specific items that we want. Probably the best performing comp if you are uncontested and you are not going for a fast level 9. Next up, we have any reroll, and this comp is just a classic reroll comp for a 1-cost unit, which will be any. So what you want to do is to hit any early as the headliner and a lot of any units. Are we in this situation? We can go for a 5 lose streak to get as much gold as possible and use all gold above 50 to roll down and hit any early. Whenever we get her to 3-star, we will just start go up in levels and add in more units. The main thing about this comp that have been changed is the super fan, where we have been changed in the item that we're getting, and that is Gauntlet now. So we're gonna play Gauntlet, and then we're gonna play a Sojourn, and we can also play a Tooth. We could also decide to play 2 Sojourns instead, and tank and support items will go on Nico and Echo, just whatever you get to 2-star first, and then we're just gonna put the other items on the other one after. When we get up in levels and hit Ahri, we will start put mana and AP items on her. And are we getting to level 9, we will put in something like Thresh. We could also put in something like Yorick, and we do also have the option to play something like Senna, especially if we are playing Annie as the headliner where she is emo instead, to get 5 in Spellweaver. Are this the situation? We are obviously gonna play some of the other units, which could be Gragas or Seraphine early, and then at the end just put Senna in instead of one of these 2. We're also only gonna play one of these guys since we just want to have 4 in Guardians. There is also an option where you're just gonna play your board like this, so you take out Amumu and play your board similar here, because we don't really need Amumu if we are already having 2 in emo. But if I could choose, I would prefer Annie as the headliner where she is having Spellweaver. When it comes to augments, we are going for something specific. We are going for more items, which is really good in the early game as well. And having the specific one for Annie's is really important. But we will also have the option to choose from the carousel first, since we are going for the lose streak early. Next up, we're gonna look at Kda with Akali or Ahri as the main carry. So what we wanna do here is to get to the point where we can get 7 in the trade. And that means we have to have Akali or Ahri as the headliner units, and we can only get that at level 8. So get to level 8 as fast as possible, do a roll down and hit one of these 2 units as a headliner. Both of them can work, and before you get to this point, you can just play around Kda and Spellweaver and Superfans. And what you can do is to play around Annie as a headliner and just pivot the items over to Ahri later. It is quite straightforward a comp to play. So what you want to do is just to put the classic mage items on Ahri, which can be a blue buff, gauntlet, and something that gives more damage. Akali just want bruiser healing items, which can be red buff, Bloodthirster, Hands of Justice, and it could also be something like Titans. It could also be Infinity Edge or Edge of Night. Tank items will just go on Nico, but also on Echo if you have extra. Little buddies, remember your roots because everyone is just sharing the same trait. And then dual gauntlets is good as well to make everyone crit, especially Akali and Ahri. Are we getting to level 9? We will put in something like Senna, Karthus, or even Ilaoi. So one of these 3 units if you get to level 9, just to give us extra trait or more time or more damage or even more frontline. Next up we have Jazz, and Jazz have been nerfed and is not the strongest comp at the current meta, but it is still a comp that can perform very well if you are getting the right start. So are you getting to level 5 or level 6 where you are getting a Bard with Jazz as the headliner? Naturally, you can play around this board. You can have the same situation if you are getting to level 6 or level 7 and hitting Misfortune as the headliner with Jazz. Jazz headliners is the only option now for this comp. So what you want to do is to get Bard to 3-star if you're having him as the headliner, and after that you want to have Misfortune to 3-star as well. If you're having Misfortune as the headliner, you will go to level 7 as fast as possible and roll from here to get her 3-star. When it comes to items, we are getting these items for free depending on which one is the headliner from Superfans, and else we're just gonna go up in levels after we are hitting the 3-star headliner and putting in items that fits the comp well. When it comes to Misfortune, we are going for purely AD and also attack speed, so Rage Blade and Last Whisper is good options. We could also go for Infinity Edge, but then we want some sort of anti-armor in the front line from something like Shroud, but else we're just gonna go for pure tank items to give us more time. When it comes to Bard, if he is the headliner, he will stack up over the game, so give him a lot of mana items. You get the helm for free and then put in one other mana item. It could also be even an extra mana item, so you're just going for 3 mana items, but else something like Dual Gauntlet is good as well. Get up in levels and get in something like Lucian. We could also play around something like 6. And the good thing about this board is if we are not in the situation where we can get them to 3-star, we can just play a stable board with them as 2-star and get up in level again and try to hit for the fast 9. Then we're just gonna sell the headliner and roll for a 5-cost headliner instead, and then just play around the fast 9 comp. Are we in the situation where we are getting these guys to 3-star and getting to level 9? We have a quite strong comp and we're just gonna add in similar units, but we could also put in something like Ilaoi. We can also play something like Jhin, especially if we for some reason choose to have MF as the headliner where she is big shot. It is performing a bit worse, but if you are getting to level 9, it can do quite well. When it comes to augments, are we getting Jazz? It is still a super good augment when you are playing this board. More units of our headliner and bigger shots is good if you are playing MF as the headliner. Next up we have the Riven comp with Edgelord or 8-bit. So are we in the situation where we are getting Riven as the headliner and are getting 8-bit? We will play this comp where we are just putting in Caitlyn in the backline and taking out Yasuo. Are we playing this? We are going for 4 in 8-bits and 5 in Edgelord. This is just the board that you want to play, and if you are getting the one where you're having Riven as the headliner on Edgelord, we are not playing Caitlyn and we are just putting in Yasuo again. Quite simple, get to level 7, hit Riven, and then just play one of these boards. Try to have Riven and Yone 3-star, prioritize Riven first, and also when it comes to items, here you prioritize Yone after to get him to 3-star and also putting in similar items. After that, you go to Viego and put items on him. You just want to use bruiser items on all of them. The only thing that is a bit different to Riven is that something like Quicksilver is quite good. It could also go for the others and it could also go on bruisers units normally, but it is performing quite well at the moment. So go for something like Bloodthirster for a healing item, Quicksilver and Titans, similar items on Yone, and then you have Viego at last. All other items like Sunfire Cape, Shroud, and tank items will just go on Mordekaiser. It is one of the more new comps. When it comes to the stats, it says it's not performing that well yet, but it is probably because it is a bit overplayed or people don't really know how to play it yet. But I'm sure this comp will do quite well later in the patch. Are we getting to level 9? We do have a quite strong comp, no matter what, and preferably we will play a comp where we have 7 in the Edgelord, no matter what, and that could just be by playing all of these units, but it could also be if we're getting an emblem in some way and put it on Viego. Are we getting to level 9? We do have a very strong board, and an option could be to play something like Kiana, or you can also choose to play something like Caitlyn, and especially if you have the chance to play something like an emblem from 8-bit, which you can put on Viego. So you're having 7 in Edgelord and 4 in 8-bit. When it comes to augments, we are playing something that are specific from this board, or we could also play something like Vampirism or something else that give us more healing. The last one is HeartSteel, and more specific, we are probably more looking at the trait because HeartSteel have started performing way better. And one thing you can do is just to play around one of these 2 units where you are hitting them as a headliner that are HeartSteel. Then you can just start your game by going for a lose streak and then just getting a lot of extra gold and items from the bonus from HeartSteel, and then just try to get up in levels faster than everyone else and having an overall stronger board and hit one of any of the other boards that we had just been going through. Another option is to play around these units where you are going for a win streak, and are you in a situation where you are hitting these 4 units, which one of them as a headliner at stage 3, you're having 5 in the trait, which is quite good as well. Due to the losses that you will end up having at this stage will give you a lot of gold or items. Are we in a situation at level 7 where we do have the chance to make ourselves an emblem? We want to do that. That means we can have 7 in the trait quite fast, and this will give us tons of items or gold. Another option is also to hit Kane if we are lucky. So just playing around these 6 units, giving us 7 in the trait, and every time we lose and are able to cash out after 4 rounds, we are getting tons of value. We are not going for a specific comp. We are probably just getting to level 9, and whenever it makes sense, we're just gonna use all the items and gold to put them into the 5-cost units and use them as the carry. Whenever it makes sense, just sell your headliner and sell some of the weaker units whenever you can, and just play around the best and strong units that you find in your shop. If you want to see tier lists similar like this, or even just specific guides on specific comps, or even just 5 good comps to play early in a patch, make sure to subscribe, and else just thanks for watching.